Hey, welcome. So today, we're going to dig into one of the most powerful and honestly, most overlooked forces in our lives, our own curiosity. We're going to see how just paying attention to what fascinates you can actually be your best guide to a meaningful life.
You know that feeling, right? Like you're on a path, but it doesn't quite feel like it's yours. Maybe you're checking all the right boxes, going through the motions, but the journey just feels a little hollow. It's a super common experience, and it usually boils down to one simple thing. We've been taught to ignore our own internal compass.
And that's exactly where we're going to start. We're going to take a look at why so many of us end up in this place, feeling sort of disconnected from our own inner guidance system.
I mean, think about it. Since we were kids, we're encouraged to be sensible. We're told to make a solid plan, to pick the practical route, the one with a clear, immediate payoff. And in that whole process, that quiet little voice of curiosity, the one that's fascinated by something a little weird or off the beaten path, it just kind of gets pushed aside.
But what if that quiet voice isn't a distraction at all? What if it's actually the most important signal you have? This brings us right to the core idea of this whole explainer, what we're calling your divine compass. The writer Jordan Peterson has this great phrase for it, the divinity of interest. And the idea is actually pretty simple, but it's huge. What genuinely grabs your attention isn't just random noise. It's a meaningful directional pull from the world, basically telling you where you need to grow next. It's a signpost pointing you toward a bigger, more expansive life.
And this quote just nails that feeling, right? It's not a shout, it's a whisper. It's this subtle little pull that says, hey, over here, there's something important for you to discover. It's an invitation to step just a little bit beyond the edge of what you already know.
So where does this feeling even come from? Why is interest so compelling? Okay, let's move on and see how this actually works, psychologically, right there on what you might call the edge of meaning.
Okay, check this out, because this slide maps out our inner world perfectly. On one side, you've got order. That's your comfort zone. Everything you've mastered, everything you understand. And on the other side, you've got chaos, the great unknown, full of both danger and, of course, possibility. Interest? It sparks to life right on that border, that living, breathing edge between the two.
So here's the crucial part. When you feel that little spark of curiosity, that's your own mind, your own spirit, inviting you to expand. That's literally the mechanism we use to turn the unknown into the known. It's how we transform pure possibility into actual real-life experience.
Just think about it in your own life. It's almost never some giant leap, right? It starts small. You pick up a book on a whim, and suddenly it completely changes the way you see the world. A single curious conversation turns someone you barely know into a lifelong friend. Or that little hobby you started, just for fun. It slowly, bit by bit, blossoms into a career that you absolutely love. These aren't accidents. They're the direct result of following that thread of interest.
Okay, so if this is so powerful, why aren't we all doing this all the time? Well, this leads us to the roadblocks, both inside our heads and from the outside world. Let's call them the voices of doubt.
Does any of this sound familiar? We dismiss something that fascinates us because, well, that's not practical, or it doesn't have a clear payoff right now. We're afraid to step onto a path where we can't see the final destination. Or, and this is a big one, we worry about what other people are going to think. These pressures are so real, and they make us distrust our own most authentic signals. And look, the stakes here they're really high. As the source material puts it, and this is so blunt, when we consistently ignore what genuinely calls to us, we are actively walking away from the very thing that gives our lives depth and color and meaning.
All right, so how do we start listening again? How do we tune back in? Let's move into our final section, which is really all about a shift in mindset, learning to trust the whisper.
First things first, we've got to bust a major myth. Following your genuine interest, it is not some selfish indulgence. It is not a waste of time.
It is your compass. It's your built-in navigation system, constantly orienting you toward what is absolutely essential for your own growth.
And that deep, genuine pull of interest, it is not a distraction from your real life or from your responsibilities. It is the direction. It's the sign that is pointing you exactly where your real life is waiting to unfold. See, when you combine your discipline with your curiosity, your life becomes both grounded and unbelievably expansive.
And when you zoom all the way out, this is how everything new comes into the world. I mean, every great work of art, every scientific breakthrough, every profound act of love. It all started with someone having the courage to follow a tiny spark of fascination into the great unknown.
So what's the takeaway? The path forward isn't some complicated formula. It's really more of an act of faith. First, be faithful to that whisper of life. Second, trust that where your attention naturally wants to go is significant. And finally, have the courage to take that first small step in the direction it's calling you, even if, especially if, the final destination is a total mystery.
And that really is the ultimate point here. The journey of meaning isn't about finding some final perfect answer. It's about bravely engaging with the questions that fascinate you along the way. So I'll just leave you with this. What quiet, persistent interest in your life is waiting for your attention? What is it calling you to explore?